people because I understand where the First Amendment falls. I understand freedom of speech. I understand freedom of religion. I don't like to be forced as a taxpayer to pay for Andre Serranis putting a crucifix of Jesus in a vat of urine. I don't think that's art. I think that's hateful. I don't like to pay for that. I think we ought to stop paying for that type of thing. But I don't think you ought to be put in prison. I don't think you ought to be killed. And I think that's the point that you just saw the veteran who had organized this make, is that, now he's under a death threat from this radical sect of Islam. If Islam wants to coexist here in America, they need to verbally take the lead in putting down the people who are getting violent against other people, who cannot tolerate free speech. But I think it's just as important that we push back against the violations of free speech in the name of protecting people from feeling bad, in the name of shutting down hate speech. I think it's just as important that we push back on that in the universities, in the media, everywhere else where that's coming up.
Right. The media guy's trying to shame the veteran there, saying, oh, do you think it's worth it? Do you think it's worth it? These people aren't saying Muslims go back to the Middle East. They're not saying get out of my country. They're saying, look, we're allowed to show a cartoon image of your creator or your prophet. Okay. Yeah. We're allowed to do that, whether you like it or not, just because you're allowed to say things that we don't like either. And that's the way it works.
Is hateful, but until
and
they
he fought for them to have that right.
Exactly. What they're doing, we could say at one level, is hateful. What Pamela Geller is doing is hateful. Until they can accept that and tolerate hateful attacks, then they need to be confronted. And I really do appreciate him putting his life on the line. But we need to confront people who will take away our basic fundamental freedoms that we possess as human beings. Those are things worth fighting for. Those are things worth dying for. Those are even things worth going over the edge and being hateful about. To say, you're going to kill people because of their free speech exercise, then fine. Let me illustrate that for you. I understand what Pamela Geller is doing. I don't like it. I don't like it when it's done to me as a Christian, but I certainly understand the point that they're making, and it's an important point. We cannot allow free speech, freedom of religion, to be shut down on the basis of hate speech. Understand, too, that we have the same thing as being done to Christians in terms of marriage and in terms of other religious aspects that they wish to exercise. And so this is a full spectrum that we need to understand where the boundaries are. We need to understand when you're coercing other people and when you're just exercising your free speech.
I got 2 points to make here from a couple of Twitter followers. Loose Screw has a question. He says, do you think the straw that breaks the camel's back will be the financial collapse or religious riots? I think it'll be a combination of both, but I think the financial collapse is going to kick off anything major, aside from these hot pockets of protests that we're seeing around the country right now. I don't think you're going to see anything widespread until there is a financial collapse. And then David Absolute says, Christians assisting in peaceful protests would not spit on the Vietnam vets, just to clear that up. And I would agree with him. I don't think you're going to see that. What do we consider the Westboro Baptist Church? I don't think, are those guys, what do they consider themselves?
They call themselves Christian. I don't know. Most people who call themselves Christian would not consider them to be Christian.
A weird inbred sect.
Yeah. So, I really don't understand where those guys are coming from. I've heard what they say, but it doesn't look anything like what I see Jesus doing, quite frankly.
Right.
Doesn't look like Jesus, so it doesn't look like Christianity to me.
Yeah, and so we see people there with the blue signs across the way, and some are saying, like, F ISIS, not Islam, and so trying to make that distinction. And so that's where a lot of people are coming from, is that you're being Islamophobic or anti-Islamic by having this protest rally, and you're attacking the whole entire thing of Islam. But it's just like you're saying, that people who are in this country who are against that, and that's exactly what happened in Waco. They have one of the largest groups of Islamic mosques there spoke out about that and said, we absolutely disagree with what happened. We're not for that. If they want to draw the cartoons, who cares? Like, whatever. And so that's what we need to see more of. But a lot of people there are just kind of saying, that you're just attacking this entire religion of people here, but that's not the case. And that's kind of the excuse that's being used throughout the media to just demand passivity. Oh, don't offend. And it's like, no.
We can't let a vocal minority, whether it's the Westboro Baptist or whether it's radical Muslims, we can't allow a vocal minority to destroy our freedoms. And so they have to be confronted. Both groups have to be confronted. And it really is something that's necessary. And of course, I personally looking at this, I can't tell whether they are a small minority or a large minority or the majority, quite frankly. I think the Muslims need to take the lead in terms of opposing these violent people, but they need to be challenged, not cowed down to.
Right, because then it only builds.
Yeah.
Then they think, oh, well, now we can get you on anything. Marcos, just a quick production note. People do want to see what's going on in the protests, so keep this split screen up like you have. People, I've seen a couple tweets already of people watching that, and you can send us your Twitter questions. I'm at Dews News. We got at Leanne McAdoo and at Libertarian. And you're watching, this is the InfoWars Nightly News. We're almost into 2.5 hours of live coverage on this Friday where, you know, we could be out enjoying our Friday evening with our families, but we're here with you getting the word out. This is kind of a story that really just started bubbling up this morning over in Phoenix, Arizona with this protest. I guess it's been planned for a couple weeks now, but it hit the media.
He was on Anderson Cooper, I think yesterday or something. But that's really how they want to. They really want to just point out how these people are hateful,
right?
And you know they're being racist or you know bigots and whatever. And it's not that. I mean, yeah, obviously some people probably are out there with that paradigm, but it is kind of saying this is America. If we want to be able to put up posters in the Metro Authority, we don't need to be afraid that it's going to be bombed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
Let me just repeat what somebody tweeted to me. He said, the most important speech is that which offends. That is absolutely true. That's from James Knox. That's absolutely true. If you're going to bow down on the speech that offends, then you don't have free speech. That's the whole point. That's why Voltaire said, I may disagree with what you have to say, but I will defend it to my death. Because that is the essence of the principle of free speech, the principle of freedom of religion. I may totally disagree with them, and I do disagree with them religiously, but I will say they have a right to have to worship the way that they want to, unless that worship includes cutting people's heads off. Okay?
Yeah.
We're not going to accept that.
Well, I think the guy has it right there on that sign. He who does not love does not know God. And here's another one: love the Muslims, hate evil. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have to get. We can live together. Yeah. Christians and Muslims can live together. We can prosper together.
They've been doing it for centuries.
Yeah.
And you know, they did it before we invaded in the Middle East. And now all the Christian churches in Iraq and Afghanistan have been destroyed because of American foreign policy. We poisoned that well. We were the aggressor in that case. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so that's brought about a religious persecution and backlash against Christians in those Islamic countries that was not there for thousands of years until the U.S. military-industrial complex went there.
And yes, liberals, we can thank Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld and the Bush clan for that, for definitely instituting that, because before, well, I guess you can thank Zbigniew Brzezinski, too, for helping create al-Qaeda. And, I mean, there's a whole list of technocrats and evil people that we sometimes vote into office. Sometimes they just assume the office. In our governments. And, you know, right now, what it looks like, I'm really impressed that it's been peaceful on both sides. Yeah, you're going to have words, but that's fine. Words can never hurt me. Right? Sticks and stones break my bones.
Exactly.
Change the channel if you don't like it.
The cartoon, believe it or not, is really not going to offend your God if he is your God. I mean, it's a cartoon.
If you don't like driving in front of the mosque, don't go down that street. You know, there's a million streets in America. They don't all have mosques in them. So, you know, right now what you're seeing, this looks like the private property where I don't know if it's the Muslim, if the religion owns this or what, or who owns it, but they seem to be coming over and they're talking with people now. This is what has to happen. This is the dialogue that, you know, you hear all this cussing and signs and stuff, but this is the good side right here that you probably won't see on the mainstream media.
Right. You're going to just see the guns and these people came out.
I know,
here
people were carrying guns.
They're frightening and terrorists and they're just harassing. But see, the gentleman that was interviewed at the very beginning brought up a good point. I mean, if there are now 4 people.
It's the point of the night.
Coming out of this particular mosque, I mean, I don't want to say that this mosque is breeding jihadists or anything like that, but a person who goes to that mosque, who is a member of that community, you have to be able to step outside of your, right where you're at and just be able to say, well, what's going on here? What's happening here that now we have a few people that have been indicted or went to go sacrifice themselves because of a cartoon?
Yeah, and as far as I know, there aren't too many Christian churches where people are going around and finding people to go out and attack other people. I don't think that's happening widespread. So, the Muslims need to not preach that if they are preaching it, and condemn it if it's not being done in their name. They need to condemn that stuff.
Well,
Joe, do you have anything to say? You've been listening to us for a while. Can you hear us? This is Joe Biggs getting a selfie, it looks like.
They had, I've gotten a couple of Twitter responses here. Somebody asked, can he go to speak to somebody that's representative for the Muslim side, but I think he's being prevented from doing that by the police. Is that correct?
Joe, if you can hear us, go over by the fence area and talk to some of those people there, and let's get their side of the story. I'd love to hear what they have to say about what's going on now. It does look like it's getting a little dark out there. The sun is starting to go down. It's
probably going to wind down after this.
They probably have another 30 minutes of somewhat having light in that area.
Joe Biggs, can I get a 10-4 if you hear me?
He might not have his earpiece in.
He's unplugged, guys.
Oh, he is?
Hey, I got a tweet from a Mark A. Bushy. He says, Dave, you know nothing about the Westboro Baptist Church. Well, yeah, I'm not an authority on the Westboro Baptist Church, but what I've seen of the Westboro Baptist Church is I've seen them say they are going to be the instrument, I guess, of God's rebuke and judgment to the United States for homosexuality, I think is what they have an issue with. So they show up to the funerals of soldiers and scream at these people. I'm sorry, but that is out of line under any circumstances, and it has absolutely nothing to do with it. Christians don't rebuke people for something that they didn't do. And so, yeah, I don't know a whole lot about him, but what I know about him is enough. I don't need to know any more than that.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Anthony McCauley, he was one of the guys, or Macaulay, he's the one who's asking for the split screen. So definitely keep that split screen up there, Marcos. This is live on location in Phoenix, Arizona. And this all just kind of happened.
Talk to Biggs
this morning. I don't know if Biggs can hear us right now, so he's just going to keep shooting.
All right.
Turn this up, guys.
Nigga, 209.
They're just calling him racist. Can't tell what side he's on right now.
So I just got a text from Joe. He said somebody asked estimate how many people are open carrying. He said it's about 50 people there open carrying right now. I'm going to text him again since he's watching this. Are you texting? Ask him if he can go talk to the people at the fence.
Yeah, that's what
And you're watching live coverage right now. This is InfoWars Nightly News. Your host, Leanne McAdoo, sitting right over there. I'm Rob Dew. We got David Knight in the control room. And all this is paid for by your support out there on prisonplanet.tv. And, I
just got a tweet, Rob.
Yeah, go ahead.
Edward Smokes says, we need an emphasis on the 2 convicted people and the 2 shooters in Texas that came from there in Phoenix. Of course, we mentioned that earlier, but people who are just joining us may not have heard that.
That's true.
That was why one of the people there was so angry and so passionate about this particular event and why he was there in support of it. It wasn't just hearsay. He knew the people personally. 2 of them had already been indicted. And then we had another 2.
Here's something from Zen Design. Wouldn't any and every description of Muhammad be a form of blasphemy? Even written words are painted pictures of him. There you go. I mean, a picture, they say, is 1,000 words. So I guess when you draw a picture of him, it's 1,000 blasphemies. But if you're just going to write the name Muhammad, is that a blasphemy? That which cannot be said. I think there's a Monty Python skit in there somewhere. My eternal thanks goes out to these bikers and InfoWars. Thanks for the late night coverage, guys. That's Gabriel Allen King. Thank you all for tweeting us. This is my first day on Twitter. I feel like such a big boy now.
I know. I was
totally
so
ridiculous.
proud of you that it was an epic troll fashion that you were like, I've got to get a Twitter and respond.
Gonna do it.
You're probably already blocked by that guy.
You think the globalists are not using these events against the people? The op is the more important